Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Quorum Podcast. This is where academic medicine meets remote, austere, and resource-limited areas. Welcome back to the program. This is Aebhric OKelly. This week, we are joined by Eric Linder, who started Team 5 and, continues to push for remote medicine worldwide. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a bit about yourself and what's keeping you busy.
Well, I still work a full-time job, so Team 5 is part-time. It's all volunteer. But we've been running Team 5 since about 15 years now. And it all started out basically like a lot of things, a bunch of friends at a bar. And with a napkin, I sat down with some of the guys and we decided that we were going to, for fun, just go once a year to an indigenous location somewhere. And in the beginning, it was Belize and Guatemala, and just do something good once a year with 5 of us. And then it kind of snowballed and became something pretty big. I think the hardest part for it is keeping it small,
So who were the first 5? You were around in a pub. Who were the 5 people, and how'd you guys come up with this?
It was me, Andrew Call, it was Dr. Kenneth Stevenson, Douglas, and then myself. And we were just talking about doing remote medicine. And I was just finishing my residency part of the RMP program back in the day when the program wasn't overseas. It was still here in the States. And we wanted to try to find something that didn't have any political or religious affiliation, kind of just do the right thing, because I was doing missions in Belize and Uganda, and there was always strings attached with going to help people, whether it was build a church or, a lot of it was religion, some of it was politics. And I just felt that why don't we just do something for fun to go out and help out that has no strings attached, doesn't cost them anything, figure, hey, it'll cost us like $10,000 to $15,000 a mission once a year. Through friends, we can just raise that money. Not a big deal to go down to Guatemala or Belize. And they're like, that's awesome. And so we did our first mission, and it was in Guatemala. We actually flew into Belize because we weren't like great on the logistical part in the beginning. Like anything, you're going to fail. So we knew Belize. I knew Belize because I did my residency in Belize in Belmopan. And so I said, well, I really have great contacts in Belize. So we flew to Belize and we took a boat across to Guatemala. And I had already spoke with a tribe in Guatemala a year earlier. And I actually went over there with Kenna and Doug. We were doing a mission in Belize. And I was just like, Belize is getting too busy. There was a lot of medical missions going down there. And then it was so busy that the Belize government and the clinics were literally telling us how we were going to pay them or bring them supplies or do this to be able to do a mission for them. And I'm like, yeah, it's time to move on.
Wow.
So we took a boat just like off the cuff, man. Just one day at the end of the mission, I said, let's just grab a boat and we'll hire a captain. We'll go across and we'll find a new location in Guatemala because Belize is it's crazy. So we get on this boat, we go across into Livingston. We start talking to people in Livingston, which it borders Belize near Punta Gorda in the south. And I said, hey, this is what we're looking to do. And they're like, yeah, just drive up the river where it goes ocean to river. And up in Lake Isabel, there's all sorts of Mayan tribes up there. I said, all right. So we start driving through and it starts getting dark at night and it starts raining. And we're like, oh shit, we got to find a place to stop and sleep and get something to eat. And so the boat captain knew about a small traveler's lodge. And so it's called the Finca Titan. And so we went over there. And at the time, like 15 years ago, they had like 10 small thatched huts that were on structures over the water. So it was kind of cool. And so we pull in there, we meet Carlos, and he runs the place. And we were telling him what we want to do. And he's like, this is so awesome because nobody ever comes up here. Like we went through fingers of rivers to find this place. Like it is so off the track. Like it's triple canopy setting. You can't see the sky or anything like that. And so he said, look, we have a guy that works for us that actually speaks English to K'chi. His father is the tribal elder if anybody can do it, he can do it. And I said, okay. So the next morning we grab him and we end up getting on the boat for about an hour. And we're going through all this jungle, all the little tiny rivers that go to almost nothing. Then we get out and we hike for about an hour to an hour and a half through the jungle. That's unforgiving, as you know. And then we reached this small Mayan village and we started talking with the elder through the translator. And he goes, yeah, we've heard this before. I said, okay. He said, look, the government's responsible to come out and do medicine for us. But if they came out once a year for a half a day, we'd be lucky. They never come out because it's just so far away. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put together this team and we'll come back in a year. And he's like, whatever. I said, okay. So we stayed in contact with we actually did a written agreement on paper in Kachie. And then he poked his finger and he did like a blood stamp on there,
Wow.
like a fingerprint stamp. And I'm like, I'll pass. I'll just sign my name. And so in the middle of the jungle, stabbing yourself probably isn't the smartest thing to do. And so I said, I'll see you in a year. I still have the piece of paper, by the way. And so the Mayan tribes are a lot like the American Indian tribes. They have their own laws, their own stuff, their own medical boards and everything. So you don't have to go through the Guatemala government. You can go directly through the Mayan government, like their own little entity, which makes it easy. I said, okay, we'll be back in a year. A year later, we showed up to Belize because it's the only way I knew it in, right? And we went there and we did the mission and there was 5 of us. It was really cool. And then we said, okay, now we kind of have a base camp at the finca. They donated translators for us. They donated the boats, the fuel, which is very expensive in these kind of places. And then they charge us almost nothing to stay at their location. And they just said, we want to be involved, And so that's how it all kind of started.
Wow. I'm looking at the map and that lake is remote. Like you have to take this little finger of a river up and then it opens up this huge lake. And there's not much there.
There's nothing there. So it's crazy. There's a couple hundred tribes, like villages. And I think I've made it to in 15 years, I've made it to 30 of them. It's so crazy. A lot of times though, when you go to the location, they'll let them know ahead of time and the smaller villages will walk to the larger village that we're going to go to. So nice. I guess we are kind of hitting more than, what I think I am hitting, but we love it. I mean, I actually love it. And also my course that I'm doing at UNLV, which I profess, we just got approval for the next semester to bring them out there, my students. And so at the end, they'll actually be involved with Team 5 on a mission. I've been doing it since 2017 with the University of Zagreb and a couple other ones in England, universities, taking their students that have interest in remote medicine out with us. But now a full program at UNLV has been approved. And I've been teaching the scholastic part right now. I have a 3-day residency at the Red Rock Canyon where we kind of do like a little mini mission to get them ready. And then at the end, it'll be going to Guatemala for a week to actually doing a real mission with Team 5 and getting their hands dirty.
So what's the degree that you're running?
So my degree right now, it's an elective. It's called Beyond Borders. And it's for either 4th-year medical students or master's and PhD students in public health. So in next semester, we're opening it up to last year nursing, last year dentistry, last year physical therapy, also to join into the mission. Because as you know, when we go on these missions, it's not just medicine. We're doing medical, dental, physio, whatever comes in. So we're trying to expand it. And then UNLV did talk to me about doing a master's program, but it's really a lot of work. I'm not sure if I'm ready to do a master's program. So I have 2 different courses right now, one for the medical side and one for the PhD side. And then next semester, it's going to be combined into one course.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great experience for them.
Yeah. And it's 3 clinical credits, so the ones that are, clinicians, they get credits for it. And then the other ones, like the PhD students, a lot of them are doing projects for rural or remote locations, like making new kind of mosquito nettings embedded with permethrin or whatever have you. They're doing all these projects and they're working a lot with mosquitoes and vector-bornes. A lot of them are doing parasitology. And so they can bring what they're trying to develop for their their dissertations or their master's or their PhD programs over with us over there and test the theories, which is kind of nice.
Are you doing vaccinations as well for malaria and dengue?
So we're not doing vaccinations. The only kind of injections that we're kind of doing over there, if the country's okay with it, the village is okay with it and stuff like that, we're doing Depo-Provera to help them with the population. Some of the women really want it. They're just like, at age 20, they already have 5 kids. You know what I mean? They're like, this is crazy. So we kind of help them with that if they want it. Some of them are already on it. And then we go there, and because they're so remote, they normally have to every month hike down or make it to a clinic that could be 2 hours away, 3 hours away. So we'll go over there and they have these cards, and we'll kind of give them the injections for that. But yeah, that's mostly what we do with the injection stuff. We mostly run a quick care clinic. Sometimes we do medical missions for cleft palates and cleft lips. We do a lot of ultrasounding. Obviously, we have Chris Duncan. He's amazing. He's an internist from London. So as you know, he wrote the book Ultrasound for the Generalist. And so he'll come out and do a lot of ultrasound. He finds some crazy stuff when we're out there, man. Like crazy stuff. And so we'll do that. And we do some dentistry. We have Berger Langdana. And so we do a lot of dentistry, pulling teeth. He's probably the busiest guy when we're out there, to tell you the truth. He's really busy. We help him. So we all get cross-trained in dentistry for doing blocks and extractions to help him out because he's so busy.
So that's how it got started. That's how Team 5 had its origin.
Yeah, there was 5 of us in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, everybody wanted to go. And then the next mission was like 8, 10, 12. But we had to go back and cap it, So we'll do 5 or 6 practitioners, and then so we have like logistics, we have people that may do pharmacology, and then we have 5 students.
Nice.
No more than 15, basically.
So how many people go in a year now that you've been doing this for a decade or so? How many people? Because I see Team 5 shirts everywhere. There must be a ton of people.
Good, I love it. There's not. We're probably, practitioners around 25 to 30, not that many. We want to keep it small, but like logistically, we have a lot of people that help out. We have people that help with our IT. We have people that sit on our board of directors. We have Jimmy Graham, number 80 of the Saints. He just retired. He sits on our board. We have General Dave Hicks. He sits on our board. So we have like a lot of people that are helping out that actually don't deploy. We have some medics in Las Vegas that are firefighter medics or work for the ambulances or work in the we have doctors that work in the hospitals here locally. We have Mark, you know what I mean, that actually don't deploy but help us out locally in Las Vegas.
That's Mark Ogrifa, the NASA doc.
Yeah, and like I said, he just, he guest speaks for me at the university. I have a bunch of doctors here locally that'll come in and guest speak at the university as well. And they're part of Team 5, but they don't actually deploy. A lot of them don't have the time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give up. But like when we do the cleft lips, cleft palates, when we did that in Peru, they got to shut down. Keith had to shut down his practice for 2 weeks, and he's got a private practice. And then he's, bringing part of his team and, logistically, it's expensive for him, to shut things down.
So Eric, tell us, how did you wind up in Las Vegas? You spent quite a long time in Israel on the IDF, but how did you wind up in Las Vegas?
So I initially out of high school joined the Air Force. So I joined the Air Force. I was in crash fire rescue. I was a rescueman in England for 2 years, 1 year in Florida, and then another year in McCord in Washington. And then after my time, I got out and I was still active reservist. And I knew I wanted to get into law enforcement. Medicine was okay, but I wanted to get into more of the tactical medicine as a cop. And I was doing the hostile team. And one weekend we get Liberty and I come down to Las Vegas. It's like an hour drive. And I was sitting at the bar with some friends of mine and from the Air Force. And there was these off-duty cops there and we were just talking. And he says to me, hey, what do you do? And I'm a cop in New Jersey. I'm just finishing the academy. I have like a week left. And he's like, oh, we're Metro cops. And I said, oh, cool. He goes, yeah, we work in the gang unit. He goes, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, nothing, recovering from tonight. And he said, come ride with us. I do the ride along. I go back home. I finish the academy and I get a card from Metro. They had taken my information down and they gave it to recruiting, and recruiting sent me a thing and said, hey, we're hiring. Do you want to come out? We'll do it all in 3 days. We'll do your physical, your written, your psych, your whole deal. So I was like, why not? I really enjoyed it when I was out there. And you have to understand, Vegas back in this is 1990, right? So Vegas was pretty small. I mean, really small compared to what it is today. And so I flew out, and in 3 days I did my testing. I go back home, I get hired. A month later, I'm out here as a cop. And I got into some of the specialty units like gang unit, and we had no medical program at the time. And so the deputy chief contacted me and said, hey, like, you're a paramedic, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, the NTOA is during their first tactical medical training ever. It was 1994. And he goes, we'd like to send you to the course. It's like 2 weeks long. I said, okay. And then I started doing combat medicine like I wanted to do. If narcotics was going to do a warrant, I would go with narcotics. And then the gang unit would go and do like high level warrants. I'd go with them. The SWAT team would go do high level warrants. I'd go with them. And that went on for a while. And then they decided that they were going to go ahead and give the tactical medical positions to search and rescue for Metro. And I didn't want to do search and rescue. I really enjoyed, hitting the doors and being a cop. So I let it go. And then during that time, though, there was a symposium in Florida. And there was a general, his name is Alec Ron. And he's the commander of all the police in Israel. And I got invited to the symposium in Florida, and I went down there and I got introduced to him, and he's like, you're Jewish? And I said, yeah. And back then the Lebanon war was going on. And so he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm a combat medic. And he said, would you like to come out for a month and train with us? So I go out there and I train with them, and then I come back, and it was amazing. Beautiful country, met some amazing people that are still family to today. And, so he goes, hey, I want you to come back. Why don't you just come and move to Israel and be the tactical medic? We have a tactical medical team on the Yamam, which is their counterterrorism team, which would be like our FBI HRT team. I had recently got divorced, and I kind of needed a new chapter in my life. So they actually contacted Metro and said, hey, can you loan Eric to us for a year to do a program? So they're like, okay. And it wasn't that quick. They went through a lot of rigmarole. There was a lot of security concerns. I was going to end up getting a secret clearance and all this other shit. So I ended up getting a 1-year fellowship from Metro to go over there. I land. And I didn't speak Hebrew. So they're like, hey, we're going to send you to Nazareth. And he goes, nobody speaks English out there, so this is going to be immersion for you. And I said, okay. I've been to Israel once before with my parents for a week, right? I don't know anything. So I go to this really remote location. I go to an immersion course in the morning for language. And then in the afternoon, I was training with the units in combat medicine. So that went on for like 6 months. And then when my language got well, I started working with the Assam, which would be like a SWAT team. The Yamam is the counterterrorism team, but the Assam is like a SWAT team. And then after 2 years, I called my daughter. I was in touch with her all the time, and they let me every 6 months. I came home for a month, to see my daughter and stuff. She said, hey, if you want to talk to me, come home. Because it had been 2 years. So Metro was like, hey, dude, we're about ready to drop you too. You know what I mean? Because I'm on this, it kept extending my 1 year to a year and a half to 2 years, right? And they're like, Eric, you got to come back, man. And I'm like, okay. So because of my daughter, I moved back to the States, and I ended up going back to Metro, and I worked Metro for a couple more years. And then 9/11 happened. They started doing the Air Marshal program again, and they reached out and said, look, we're looking for people that have a lot of experience like you do. So I was still current, So I ended up joining the Air Marshal program. And then after like 2.5 years of flying and being bored, I decided it was time to press on. State Department offered me a position to be the director of major crime for Kosovo. So I went over there and spent a little over a year over there as a director, command staff with the United Nations. And I was doing a lot with medicine over there. Like there was a lot of corruption in the hospitals. So I was working a lot of those projects as a director and be able to command a country. I was going over and trying to also clean up a lot of the hospitals.
And so you started out as a paramedic, and you got your physician associate. Tell us about that.
It took a while. You know what I mean? I did it slowly. And, I was doing courses. I actually started doing things when I was in the military in the U.S. I was taking paramedic courses and taking courses for, back then, physician assistants was quite new. You know what I mean? But I was just taking classes. And after years and years, I just kind of finished it. And then I was doing the RMP program as well with them. And then I just started, I have I work in a level 1 trauma center there when I go there to volunteer now, because now I'm too old to be in the military. So, during this past war, I spent almost 4 months in Israel helping, and I was working at level 1 trauma center in the operating room, augmenting and helping out because all of their interns and residents were having to go back to their units and they didn't really have anybody. Well, they were short staffed in the hospitals. So they asked me if I can come and volunteer. And so I did that. And I also trained, like with the ultrasounds. We had a donor donate 120, ultrasounds to butterflies to the first line people, but nobody knew how to use them. And I've been using butterflies for years. So Chris Duncan actually built a course for me, like a video course. And then I would go there at Hadassah at the hospital there, and I would do daily training centers and then show his videos. And then I'd be able to show them in their labs, in a ultrasound lab, how to do it. And so that was cool. And then like 3 years ago, UNLV asked me if I would be an assistant professor for them at Kirk School of Medicine for fourth year medical students. And that kind of blew up a little bit also because I wasn't ready. I never thought about being, professor or anything like that. And that, but these opportunities happen, and you don't see too many PAs that are professors, but because of my background in austere medicine and combat medicine and, that they wanted to build a class because there's a lot of rural areas in Nevada that don't have major hospitals and they want to start putting doctors out in those locations. So I started a course for them so that the doctors would go out to these remote locations, which they do now.
So you did a course in austere medicine for doctors?
For med students, for fourth year med students.
For med students. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, for fourth year medical students. Yeah.
And you also did the master's in extreme medicine from Exeter in the UK.
I did that during COVID. That was like crazy, man. My company, unfortunately, during COVID, everything slowed down. The principal that I was responsible for, unfortunately, he got cancer and he passed away. And so I was basically doing concierge medicine, just for one principal for the company that I worked for. And so they really didn't have much to do with me at that point. He had just passed away. And so I applied for the master's program at Exeter and was accepted. So my company's like, well, how long is it? And I said, well, it's a master's program. It takes like 3 years. And they said, well, how fast could you do it if you did it full time? I said, I don't know. So I contacted Exeter. They're like, no one's ever done it. We don't know. You're allowed to do it, but no one's ever done it. And I said, legally you can do it in 12 months. And I said, all right, I'm going to try. So I ended up doing it in 14 months during COVID, full time.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I did all of that, all those credits, had like 7 residencies, dissertation, all of that stuff. And I had to go to remote locations, right? I was in it was crazy. I was in Oman, crossing the desert in Oman during a course. I was in, doing a course in Namibia, like a residency in Namibia. I did a bunch of them in England because, it was COVID. So it was hard to actually fly around places, So I had to do, I did 2 remotely and 1, and the rest of them inside of England. Yeah, I crushed it, and then my dissertation got published, which was nice.
What would you write on? What was your dissertation?
It was combating gastrointestinal parasites in developing countries.
Oh,
yeah, because
who picked it up? What journal did you use?
It was the Guam Tropical Medicine Journal that picked it up.
Well done.
Yeah, and I co-wrote it with Kenneth Stevenson, who's the one that also started Team 5. So we took my dissertation, and she's really into writing, and I'm not. After doing a master's, you don't want to write nothing anymore. In England, everything is papers. Like everything is papers. So she helped me co-author it, and
nice.
She did most of the writing. I did all the research. Did all the stuff, and she just took that, and we kind of tweaked it. So
when are you doing your PhD?
So I've been asked about that. I just don't know if I want to do it. It's just another couple of years of so much work. You know what I mean? I get tired of writing. And now I'm grading a lot. So I have all these PhD and master's students, writing for my classes is a PhD level course. And so there's a lot of writing involved. And I don't know. I don't know if I really need it. You know what I mean? To tell you the truth, I've been thinking about the doctorate PA program, of maybe doing that. I think it would be more interesting than to just do
So a DMSC, is that right? Or DSC?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, doctorate at MSc. Yeah. So that seems a little bit more interesting for me. And they say you can do it like in a year, part-time.
Good deal.
Yeah.
And then the remote medic practitioner program, you were one of the first to go through it, or you helped develop it, didn't you?
Well, no, I think I was one of the first ones to go through it.
All right.
They based it on the Pararescue's Advanced Tactical Practitioners course, which is basically a PA level program. You know what I mean? You do a lot of stuff in that thing, man. So I ended up going through that. I'm trying to think of his name. He passed away, unfortunately, from cancer.
Corey.
He was a lovely guy. And it was based in Texas in the beginning. When I went through it, there was like probably 15 of us going through it at the same time. But it took a little bit over a year for that course. And then it was part-time, and then you had to go places to do your residency. And then I had to go to Belize to do my residency for that. And I did my residency with UNMC, University of Nebraska Medical Center. They were part of the program with Corey. So I went down there.
That was
Belize.
Doc Keith Brown, wasn't it?
It was Keith Brown. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did my residency for a month in Belize. And that's actually what got me interested in remote medicine, was actually being in Belize for a month and working with the Mayans in just south of Punta Gorda. We based our in Punta Gorda in the south. And then it was like 3-hour drive, dude. It was like tough. It was like a 3-hour drive through the jungle. At one time we got a flat tire that had monkeys throwing coconuts at me. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It was crazy.
Nice.
And I'm like, this is awesome. And so, yeah, I was at
the remote medic practitioner program, did that tie into your PA program, or did that give you your PA?
No, that tied into it. Yeah.
Nice.
And I had to read the whole PA program. And then now it's gaining some traction. It's getting recognized in more and more places. I think I've helped out a lot with it, because every time I put in for like a medical license for a different country, for Team 5, I have to give them all my stuff from my PA program in remote medicine, and I have to give them my stuff from Exeter and everything else that I've done. And so they've, it's been approved in, I have like 15 countries, you know what I mean, that things have been approved in. So it's moving along. A lot of countries don't have PAs. They don't understand it. So I end up getting like regular physician licensure. When I go to Africa, I always have regular physician. I go to Peru or South America, I get regular ones. Israel, I have my PA license in Israel. It's a new program there, about 5 years now, but I have my license in Israel for my PA as well.
Wow. So you're going to Africa and Southeast Asia and Central America, and with your just a normal master's in physician's assistant, they're giving you a medical license.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Nepal too.
Is that at the clinical medical officer, or is that an actual medical doctor?
No, as a medical doctor for the time that I'm there.
Wow.
Like I was in Namibia, and I got I got a physician license for I was there for a month, so I had a temporary license for a month.
That's fantastic.
I'm probably going to go back in January back to Namibia. They opened a new clinic, and so they've already put my paperwork in, to get another license in January as a physician, because they don't have PAs there, so they just bumped you up.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, my final question for you is this: what advice do you have for the new doc, the new nurse, the new paramedic who is just starting out in their career in remote and austere medicine?
So it's really hard to get on a team, but I would say to find a course like I'm doing in Las Vegas, or the courses that you provide, doing offshore stuff, is a good way to get your foot in the door and get recognized. Because when you go into these kind of missions, it's a lot of word of mouth. Just applying doesn't always really happen. It's a lot of it's by word of mouth. And when people know you, because when you go on these missions, it's really tight knit, and you don't want to bring somebody that's not vouched for. So my thing is, do your volunteering. There's different things that you can do, even like Las Vegas, there's the homeless groups, with the Indian tribes, you can work out there. In Alaska, They have Eskimo tribes that you can volunteer out there and get your foot in the door. But for us, unless you have a education of remote or austere medicine, like you know what it's about, we're not going to take you, because you're not understanding what really we're going to be doing when we're out there, and you become more of a liability than you do anything else. So we like you to have a little bit of indoctrination and understanding of what you're going to be doing when you go on a mission. So I would say, like, there's tons of courses. I mean, like the Wilderness Medical Society, they have great courses. You know, Exeter has courses. You have courses. There's courses all around that are really good. And see if this is something that you really want to do, not just because you do want to go on a mission. You know, because it becomes a little bit more than you think it is. Some of them are very challenging. Ours are very challenging. We don't stay in hotels and nice places and work in a hospital. Ours is really remote and working in the villages, sometimes living in the villages or just outside. Like we'll do a campsite like 2 or 3 miles away from them, you know, just to give us a little bit of a break away from them. And then we have campsite there. That's what we did in Nepal as well. You don't want to be right there, but we built a campsite, you know, a few miles away, and then drove in every day. And you're living in a tent, and you have a portable shower, and you're eating crap food, and, you know, you have to be there for the right reason. But education, you need to have some sort of education and not just jump into one of these deals. That would be my suggestion.
That's good advice. Well, Eric, it's been long in coming to get you here on the podcast, and you are a mover and shaker in the community, and it's an honor to have you as our guest.
Well, thank you for having me, and hopefully this will get some people interested in going out and doing some humanitarian work and helping those that are less fortunate, that are really out there, that really need it.
This has been a presentation from the College of Remote and Offshore Medicine. If you would like to earn CPD credits for this podcast, you can join the Council of Members. Being a member of the college gives you free CPD credit, free access to our virtual field guide, and discounts on our e-learning courses. You can join the team on our college website at quorum.edu.mt.